there is a certain vitality that seems to defy time, a spark that refuses to fade even as the years accumulate. This spark is not found in youthful appearances, nor is it merely the result of physical fitness or external circumstances. It is the product of a mind that refuses to settle, a consciousness that continues to explore, question, and seek. The most independent personalities, those rare individuals who chart their own path without surrendering to the expectations of society, are sustained by an endless fountain of inner curiosity. It is curiosity that keeps their minds vibrant, their perspectives fresh, and their spirits unbound by the weight of aging. Curiosity is not merely a casual interest in the world, it is a relentless draw to understand, to probe, to look beyond the obvious and the convenient. The independent personality treats life itself as an infinite puzzle, a landscape of mystery waiting to be uncovered. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, is an opportunity to investigate, to learn, and to integrate. While many people grow complacent, repeating routines and clinging to what is familiar, those who remain curious refuse to stagnate. They ask questions others overlook, pursue paths others avoid, and challenge assumptions that most take for granted. The fountain of inner curiosity also acts as a natural shield against the limitations imposed by external circumstances. While society often equates youth with physical appearance or social relevance, the truly independent mind recognizes that true vitality comes from engagement with ideas, emotions, and the unknown. This mental engagement produces a kind of elasticity in perception. It allows the individual to adapt to changing circumstances without losing a sense of wonder. Curiosity keeps the mind malleable, agile, and open to novelty, which in turn preserves the energy and enthusiasm that often diminish with age. Curiosity is inseparable from self-reflection. Those who are independent are not only interested in the outer world, but are equally committed to exploring the inner terrain. They ask difficult questions. Who am I beyond the roles I play? What assumptions guide my choices? Where am I holding back from my potential? This internal inquiry is rarely comfortable, but it is transformative. It prevents the hardening of character that comes from unexamined habits and unquestioned beliefs. Instead of growing rigid with age, the curious mind continues to expand, creating new neural pathways, fostering creativity, and maintaining the vitality of thought that underpins a youthful perspective. Moreover, curiosity fuels resilience. Independent personalities encounter setbacks, criticism, and isolation more often than those who follow conventional paths. But their fascination with discovery, their compulsion to understand, allows them to see obstacles as opportunities for growth. Rather than retreating in fear or frustration, they investigate the challenge, dissecting it, learning from it, and emerging with insight that keeps their engagement with life intense and immediate. Their sense of wonder does not diminish because it is continually replenished through the pursuit of knowledge, understanding, and experience. This inner fountain also liberates them from the tyranny of comparison. Those who remain forever young in spirit do not measure themselves against cultural standards of success, beauty, or achievement. Instead, they cultivate a self-directed curiosity that is intrinsically motivated. They are fascinated by life for its own sake, not for the validation it might bring. By remaining in a state of perpetual inquiry, they retain the playfulness, inventiveness, and energy often reserved for the young. Their laughter, their joy, and their astonishment are genuine because they come from a mind actively engaged in exploring possibilities, rather than one numbed by repetition or conformity. Curiosity, when nurtured, becomes a lifelong companion, a source of mental nourishment that requires no external reinforcement. It is not a fleeting hobby or a transient phase. It is an orientation toward life that is deeply embedded in the independent personality. Like a river that never ceases to flow, it refreshes the mind and spirit continuously. Through this unending engagement with the world and the self, they inhabit a state of perpetual renewal. Even as their bodies age, their minds remain supple, their perspectives lively, and their engagement with life profound. The most independent personalities demonstrate that the essence of youth is not chronological but existential. It is a matter of how one engages with the world, how one confronts the mysteries of life, how one refuses to allow familiarity or complacency to extinguish the flame of curiosity in every encounter, in every moment of reflection, in every act of exploration they drink from. The fountain of inner curiosity, allowing it to sustain them, invigorate them, keep them unbound by the conventional markers of age. One of the most defining features of those who seek to defy time and remain vibrant is their remarkable detachment from the approval of others. Society often conditions us to seek validation externally to measure our worth through the eyes of family, friends, colleagues, or the broader cultural lens. We are taught to conform, to perform, and to mold ourselves into shapes that are comfortable for others. But the most independent personalities recognize that true freedom, true vitality comes not from meeting expectations, but from releasing the need to be validated. This detachment is not coldness or arrogance, it is a profound understanding that self-worth is intrinsic, and that external applause is never a reliable source of fulfillment. Those who live under the constant gaze of others risk stagnation. They shape their thoughts, choices, and even desires to fit into mold that society has created, often at the expense of authenticity. Over time, this yields a life constrained by comparison, regret, and the exhausting pursuit of approval. In contrast, the independent personality learns early that the opinions of others are just that, opinions, and often fleeting ones. They begin to prioritize inner alignment over outer recognition, finding guidance in their own values, experiences, and insights rather than in the fleeting judgments of the crowd. This shift is subtle but transformative. It creates an internal freedom that allows them to engage with life from a place of authenticity rather than fear. Detachment from external approval is not a rejection of human connection. Independent personalities often form deep, meaningful relationships, but these connections are built on mutual respect, curiosity, and shared understanding, not on the compulsion to be liked or admired, because they are no longer tethered to the whims of social validation. They can interact with others more fully, more creatively, and more honestly. They can listen without defensiveness, speak without hesitation, and act without the paralyzing need for consensus. In this sense, detachment from external approval is not isolation, it is liberation. It allows them to remain open to genuine experiences while filtering out the noise that often drains energy and dulls the spirit. A life untethered from external validation also fosters courage. When one is not constrained by the fear of judgment, one can explore uncharted paths, take bold risks, and embrace vulnerability without hesitation. Independent personalities understand that the approval of others is neither permanent nor necessary for their growth. They measure success and failure by their own evolving standards, not by the applause or criticism of the masses. This inner compass allows them to act decisively, creatively, and with a sense of playful experimentation that often diminishes with age for those bound to social expectation. This detachment also preserves a kind of mental, emotional youth. When a person no longer needs to constantly defend, explain, or justify themselves, there is a tremendous release of energy. Time that would have been spent seeking validation is redirected toward learning, creating, exploring, and experiencing life fully. Their attention is invested in discovery rather than defense, in curiosity rather than comparison, and in growth rather than approval. It is this redirected energy that sustains their vibrancy, keeping their minds agile and their hearts open, even in the face of challenges and the passage of years. Furthermore, detachment from external approval allows for a deeper engagement with one's own desires, motivations, and potential, without the distortion of others' expectations. Independent personalities are free to pursue what truly matters to them. This creates a life that is rich in meaning, filled with authenticity, and constantly evolving. They are not imprisoned by societal definitions of success, beauty, or achievement. Instead, They define these terms for themselves and live accordingly. This personal sovereignty is energizing. It fosters resilience, creativity, and a boundless sense of possibility. Interestingly, the ability to detach from external approval often grows stronger with experience. Life's challenges, betrayals, and misunderstandings can harden some into cynicism, but for those who cultivate independence, these same experiences serve as a refining fire. Each encounter with judgment or criticism reinforces the understanding that validation must come from within. Each lesson learned strengthens the inner voice, making it louder, clearer, and more reliable than any outside commentary. Over time, the mind becomes a sanctuary of autonomy, a place where the individual can explore, experiment, and exist without the constant interruption of societal noise. In this sanctuary, the independent personality discovers a rare form of freedom, the freedom to grow, to make mistakes, to experiment, to explore life with the unburdened joy that often accompanies youth. By releasing the chains of external expectation, they maintain a state of mental agility and emotional vitality that defies conventional notions of aging. There is a paradox. At the heart of vitality, those who remain most vibrant, most alive, are often those who have faced the darkness within themselves with honesty, courage, and curiosity. To embrace both shadow and light is to recognize that life is not merely a series of pleasant experiences, but a complex tapestry of contradictions that must be confronted rather than avoided. The most independent personalities understand that denying or suppressing their darker impulses, fears, or vulnerability does not make them stronger. It stagnates the soul, dulls the mind, and restricts the capacity for authentic growth. True youthfulness in spirit and mind arises when one integrates shadow and light, allowing both to inform the path forward without fear or denial. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we are taught to hide: anger, envy, insecurity, and all the traits society deems unacceptable. Many people attempt to suppress these aspects to fit into roles or masks that are socially palatable. Over time, this suppression leads to rigidity, frustration, and a subtle but pervasive exhaustion. The independent personality, however, does not fear these darker aspects. Instead, they observe, acknowledge, and even engage with them. By doing so, they transform potentially destructive energy into insight, creativity, and self-mastery. In facing what is hidden, they discover reservoirs of strength, resilience, and understanding that remain inaccessible to those who live in denial. Equally important is the cultivation of light, the conscious development of virtues, joy, curiosity, and the capacity for love. Light is not merely the absence of darkness, it is an active force, a deliberate engagement with life's beauty and possibility. The independent personality does not chase light blindly while fearing shadow. Rather, they integrate both, allowing shadow to inform the light, making it deeper, more nuanced, and more enduring. When light emerges from the reconciliation of contradictions, it is not fragile or fleeting. It becomes a steady, guiding force that illuminates the path ahead. This integration of shadow and light also fosters a remarkable kind of empathy. By recognizing their own capacity for darkness, independent personalities can relate to others without judgment. They understand the complexity of human motives, the subtle interplay of strength and weakness, and the inevitability of contradiction. This empathy does not weaken them. It sharpens their insight, enhances their emotional intelligence, and allows them to navigate relationships with authenticity rather than pretense. It is this balance that keeps their interactions alive, engaging, and fresh, contributing to a sense of mental and emotional vitality that resists the dulling effects of age. The process of embracing shadow and light is not a one-time achievement. It is a lifelong practice. Each encounter with fear, resentment, or self-doubt is an opportunity to reflect, learn, and integrate. Each moment of joy, inspiration, or love is an opportunity to deepen awareness and reinforce the connection to the self. Independent personalities recognize that life's richness emerges from this ongoing tension, the continuous dance between the aspects of self that are illuminated and those that remain hidden. This dance requires courage, self-discipline, and most importantly, honesty. It requires a willingness to look unflinchingly at one's own contradiction and to allow them to coexist without shame or avoidance. Embracing shadow and light also nurtures creativity and adaptability. The energy that emerges from confronting one's darker impulses can be channeled into art, invention, and problem solving. The self-awareness that arises from engaging with both light and dark fosters flexibility in thought and action. Independent personalities are rarely rigid in their perspectives or behavior because they have experienced a multiplicity within themselves. They understand that life cannot be reduced to simple binaries, and this understanding allows them to approach challenges with originality, resilience, and a sense of playfulness that keeps the mind engaged and the spirit young. Furthermore, the integration of shadow and light serves as a form of liberation. Many people spend their lives avoiding uncomfortable truths, masking insecurity, and performing roles that do not reflect their authentic self. The independent personality, by contrast, accepts both the imperfections and the virtues within themselves. They no longer expend energy on illusion, pretense, or approval seeking. This liberation of attention, emotion, and intention creates space for growth, exploration, and sustained vitality. By embracing the totality of their inner landscape, they preserve the energy, curiosity, and flexibility that define the most youthful and enduring spirits. In essence, the dance of shadow and light is not merely psychological, it is existential. It is the ongoing process of reconciling the complexities of self with the realities of life, of turning contradiction into sources of wisdom and strength, and of refusing to be diminished by fear, judgment, or denial. Those who master this integration remain endlessly engaged with the world, continuously learning, adapting, and evolving in ways that preserve the vigor, wonder, and resilience often associated with youth, one of the hallmarks of those who remain. Eternally vibrant is their fearless commitment to continuous self-reinvention. Life is not static, and neither are the minds and spirits of those who defy the conventional markers of age. Independent personalities recognize that clinging to old identities, routines, or roles limits growth and diminishes vitality. Instead, they embrace change as a natural, necessary, and even exhilarating aspect of existence. They understand that true independence is not about rigid consistency, but about fluidity, the ability to shed what no longer serves them, to experiment with new ways of being, and to evolve relentlessly in the pursuit of authenticity and fulfillment. Continuous self-reinvention begins with awareness. The independent personality observes themselves closely, noting patterns, habits, and beliefs that have shaped their life. This observation is not judgmental, but inquisitive. They ask which aspects of myself are genuine, and which are inherited or imposed by circumstance, which beliefs limit my potential, which routines drain my energy rather than nourish it. Through such introspection, they identify the elements of their identity that are ready for transformation. It is a process of relentless honesty, of peeling back layers of assumption, expectation, and fear to uncover the raw essence of self. The act of reinvention requires courage. It demands a willingness to let go of familiar comforts, to step into uncertainty, and to risk failure. Independent personalities understand that stagnation is more dangerous than risk, and that growth often comes disguised as discomfort. They do not fear change. They see it as a signal that life is alive, that there are uncharted possibilities to explore. Each reinvention, no matter how small or profound, expands their capacity to adapt, learn, and thrive. In this way, they remain mentally agile, emotionally resilient, and perpetually engaged with the world around them. Reinvention is not about abandoning the past, it is about integrating it. Independent personalities carry forward the lessons, skills, and insights they have acquired, but they refuse to let prior identities constrain them. Each version of themselves is a stepping stone, not a cage. They understand that identity is not a fixed point, but a spectrum, a continuum, interplay between what was, what is, and what could be. By honoring the past without being imprisoned by it, they cultivate a sense of freedom that keeps the mind lively and the spirit open. Another critical aspect of continuous self-reinvention is curiosity. Those who remain youthful in outlook are perpetually interested in exploring new ideas, acquiring new skills, and engaging with perspectives different from their own. They are not bound by the expectations of how they should think, act, or feel at a certain stage of life. Instead, they approach each moment as an opportunity to expand, experiment, and evolve. This openness to novelty, combined with the courage to release outdated identity, fosters a kind of vitality that transcends physical age and cultural convention. Self-reinvention also nurtures resilience. Life inevitably brings setbacks, losses, and disappointments, but independent personalities transform these experiences into catalysts for transformation. Instead of viewing adversity as a threat to identity, they see it as an invitation to adapt and grow. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to explore untested aspects of self, to discover untapped strengths, and to redefine their path. This proactive engagement with change keeps them dynamic, prevents stagnation, and maintains the mental and emotional elasticity often associated with youthful energy. The practice of reinvention encourages authenticity. By continuously reassessing who they are and what they want, independent personality refuse to settle for external definitions of success or fulfillment. They craft identities that align with their values, passions, and evolving understanding of the world. This alignment generates a sense of coherence and purpose that radiates outward, making their presence compelling, magnetic, and vibrant. They do not age into conformity, they grow into themselves. And this growth is visible in the energy, creativity, and engagement they bring to every aspect of life. Finally, continuous self-reinvention cultivates freedom. When one is unafraid to shed old versions of self, to experiment and to explore, life becomes a playground of possibility. Independent personalities are not confined by what has been. They are energized by what could be. Their capacity for transformation allows them to navigate life's unpredictability with grace, courage, and a sense of wonder. By embracing the ongoing process of becoming, they preserve the qualities that define youth, curiosity, adaptability, joy, and an unquenchable desire to engage with the world. One of the most remarkable qualities of independent personality, the ones who seem to remain eternally youthful, is their resilience. Not the brittle kind that merely endures, but a resilience that is deep, flexible, and anchored in the self. It is not forged in the absence of challenge, but precisely because they have faced life's adversities without surrendering to them. This resilience does not depend on external circumstances or temporary comforts. It is rooted in an inner anchoring, a profound sense of identity and purpose that provides stability amidst chaos. It is this inner anchoring that allows them to navigate the uncertainties of life with courage, clarity, and a vitality that others often mistake for invincibility. Inner anchoring begins with self-awareness. Independent personalities understand themselves at a level that is both subtle and profound. They recognize their strengths and limitations, their patterns of thought and emotion, and the drives that guide their decisions. This self-knowledge is not static, it is dynamic, continually tested and refined through experience. Because they know themselves so intimately, they are less likely to be swayed by external pressures, criticism, or fleeting trends. Their sense of self becomes a stable point of reference, a psychological and emotional compass that guides them through the shifting currents of life. Anchoring does not mean rigidity. True inner stability is flexible, like the trunk of a tree that bends with the wind yet does not break. Independent personalities respond to challenges with adaptability, not panic. They understand that resilience is not about resisting change, but about absorbing it, learning from it, and using it as fuel for growth. This perspective transforms obstacles from sources of fear into opportunities for insight and transformation. By maintaining an internal foundation, they are able to explore, experiment, engage with the world without being destabilized by setbacks or uncertainty. A critical aspect of resilience through inner anchoring is emotional regulation. Those who are anchored within themselves can experience intense emotions without being consumed by them. They acknowledge fear, anger, sadness, and doubt, but they do not allow these emotions to dictate their action. Instead, they observe, process, and respond with intention. This mastery over emotional turbulence preserves energy, sharpens judgment, and sustains mental clarity. It also enables them to approach challenges with a sense of calm determination rather than reaction and stress, which is often what keeps them feeling young in spirit despite life's pressures. Inner anchoring also fosters autonomy. Independent personalities are not reliant on external validation, fleeting trends, or the approval of others to maintain their equilibrium. Because their stability comes from within, they are free to pursue their goals, passions, and curiosities without compromise. This autonomy is energizing. It prevents the fatigue that comes from constantly adapting to the expectations of others and allows them to focus on what truly matters. By anchoring themselves internally, they cultivate a freedom that fuels creativity, engagement, and sustained vitality. Furthermore, this resilience is cultivated through reflection and meaning-making. Challenges and setbacks are inevitable, but those who are deeply anchored have the capacity to extract lessons, insights, and purpose from adversity. Each difficulty becomes a mirror, revealing aspects of the self that require attention, refinement, or release. Over time, this iterative process strengthens the mind, deepens the character, and enhances the ability to navigate life with confidence and poise. The independent personality does not merely survive difficulties, they integrate them, allowing experience to enrich their wisdom and fortify their inner resources. Anchored resilience also creates a buffer against external turbulence. The world is unpredictable, often chaotic, and at times unjust. Those without inner stability are buffeted by these forces, their sense of self eroded by criticism, rejection, or disappointment. In contrast, the anchored mind absorbs shocks without shattering. It creates a mental and emotional equilibrium that allows the individual to remain proactive rather than reactive, to see opportunities where others see obstacles, and to engage with life from a position of strength rather than fear. This stability is not dull or stagnant. It is alive, flexible, and vibrant, sustaining energy and engagement over the long term. Finally, resilience through inner anchoring is inseparable from a sense of purpose. Those who maintain this deep internal stability often have a guiding principle, vision, or passion that provides direction and meaning. Purpose acts as a tether during times of uncertainty, a source of motivation when external circumstances are discouraging. It reinforces the foundation of the self, allowing independent personality to maintain vitality and enthusiasm regardless of external conditions. By anchoring themselves internally and aligning with their deeper purpose, they cultivate a resilience that is both enduring and life-affirming, a quality that contributes to the timelessness of their spirit.